as well as the titles of the program, is Michael Bergman.
So good morning, everybody. It's nice to not only speak to chairs, but actually have people there sitting, especially when you talk about human factors. It's not chairs factors, it's human factors. I'm very happy to be here, not only because of the very interesting discussions we have in that room, but I think one of the important pieces are the discussions we have outside of the room, during the lunch breaks, during the other breaks in the evenings, where we actually can talk a little bit more in detail in one-on-ones in smaller groups. I think that is very important, and I encourage all of you to use that capability. I'm also happy here to be here. I'm an associated fellow of the Nautical Institute, so I'm very proud that Nautical Institute is supporting that piece here. I'm president of CRM, so I'm happy to be here also as one of the supporters of that venue. Where I want to talk to is a little bit is actually building on what Margareta was talking a few minutes ago. So that's a very nice link into. And I want to go more into human-centered design and what does it really mean? What does user-centric design really mean, and how do we as industry actually utilize human-centered design? When I talk to people, often they were saying, well, human-centered design is more for academics, so there are academical research being done in human-centered design and so on and so forth. Well, coming from industry, I can tell you we can only create money if somebody likes what we are doing. So we need human-centered design, because if you're creating something people don't like, they ultimately will not buy it unless they have to. That's a little bit the difficulty I see with Actis. Actis did not need to earn the way on the bridges, because I am more simply mandated it. Whether you like it or not, you will use it, period. Sometimes that is necessary, but I'm the opinion that if we are creating something which the end users, the mariners on the bridges, see as beneficial for their operations, if the ship owners, operators see it as beneficial, they will purchase it regardless whether it's mandated or not. And therefore, we're trying to build human-centered design always when we build into things. That's the key for us to make something which is actually usable. So, first of all, a small quiz. Some of you may have seen that in earlier presentations I had in other areas. When have you last seen something like this? I know people in here which have not seen that at all. Cadets, for example. But actually, when have you last seen these? Or that? So, why do I show that? What it tells you is that those developments are all modern equipment. They have been developed in the last 50, 60 years. But some of them seem to be as archaic as the Roman remainings in Rome. Who cares about it? But that talks a little bit about the speed of innovation and how we start to develop what we are using. And as soon as you got to know how to use an acoustic coupler, it was out to date. Nobody really needs it anymore. As soon as you got to use a telex, that was no longer used. And when you take a look to the modern smartphones, how quickly are they changing? As soon as I have a new smartphone, a new model is out and it behaves differently. And I have to take my new model because the systems do no longer work with the old models. So I'm not only see new things which I like, I also need to use it in order to communicate with others. That's the world we are in. And we talked a little bit earlier about the next generation, the millenniums, those which are digitally born up, so to speak, and us old people which had to learn that the hard way. We just had in Europe a PISA study comparing different countries and how the young people, the students, the people in school behave in different areas and work with different areas. For me, astonishing was that a lot of young people cannot manage to work with a smartphone which is a different brand than the smartphone they are using. They are so much used to their iPhone that they cannot use Samsung. They are so much used to their Samsung that they cannot use an iPhone. Well, regardless where we are, we need to learn what comes up. And that's a telling story. If you have a new system and you cannot use it, then you have to have some training. Nothing is really fully intuitive, but it needs to be intuitive enough so you can create a concept. That is what human-centered design is all about. So in essence, when what we are talking here about e-navigation, it is all about the competence. We need to improve the competence of the mariners, the navigators, the vessel traffic service operators, the port state control people, everybody involved in the chain. They need to have the necessary competence. The competence is actually built on the intelligence. You have to have the intelligence to be competent. And those intelligence comes from your knowledge. Knowledge is built up by training and by what you see. And that is all built up on the information which is given to you, which is a consolidation of data. Now the data itself, and we are in an age where we have more and more and more data. When we talked about earlier, we see a lot of new data coming in, sensor data coming in, and so on and so forth. The data itself is worthless if I do not extract information out of it. When I talk with my brother-in-law, he's a chemist and works in a pharmaceutical industry, he is talking about beautiful things and I have no clue what he's talking about. It is worthless to me, I don't understand it, and I do not know what it's talking about. For him, it's worthwhile information. For me, it's nothing else than sound. So it's data which doesn't reach me, which does not increase my knowledge, which does not give me more intelligence, which does not give me more competence. So what we really need to do in marine, when we go to e-navigation, we need to take the data streams we have in a situation-centric information, combine that and display it as information, meaningful information, which catches the brain of the mariner to increase their knowledge so they can make right decisions. So keep that in mind when we are talking about human-centered design. You may think, what does this have to do with human-centered design? And I think it's just the center of it. Because everything what we build, regardless how we build it, it needs to reach the top. Otherwise, it's worthless. It actually can be destructive. Now, in order to reach that, we need human-centered design. And the human-centered design, one of the key words is it keeps the human in the center of an iterative process. It's an iterative process. We're always iterating. We're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it so that the one who is using the data has the necessary information to make right decisions. That is the center of it all. It is not about having a sexy application. It is not about having a state-of-the-art application or whatsoever. It is about a professional tool which allows you to digest the necessary data in information which increases your knowledge. That is what human-centered design is aiming for. And if any design, if any development doesn't aim for that, it's worthless. It can be actually counterproductive. Now, I not only want to try to bridge the gap here between what have we done, what do we need to do. I also want to tell you a little bit how we actually handle that. How do we try to actually do that? And human-centered design needs to have a structured user interface in the analysis phase. Well, the first is you do an analysis. You are analyzing what it is what you need. And that's what I want to point back, what Margareta was telling. You do not ask people necessarily, because we are not designed to answer correctly. We are trying to answer in a way what we understand. 20 years ago, if somebody would talk to somebody and says, well, I have a brilliant idea, I create you a PC you can touch with your fingers. I say, what the hell should I do with that? Why would I ever touch a screen with my fingers? It does nothing more than destroying the screen and make my fingerprints on it. I don't like it. Well, once Apple has created their first attempt, Apple wasn't the first one, but they were actually marketing it right, people say, oh, that is actually cool. I actually can use it much easier than this stupid mouse on the side or something like that. Now, what Apple does, what we try to do with human-centered design, as Margareta was saying, we are watching people. We are watching people saying, what do they do? What do they need? And the human-centered design need to take that in consideration to give options. When I created in Jefferson, years ago, I was in software engineering, created a new application for our users. I asked them, what do you need? And the first answer was, well, how do I know that? What can you offer me? How can I answer that to you when I do not know what you can offer me? So that is the first attempt to trying to, in analysis phase from human-centered design, trying to analyze what is actually needed. And there we need academic research. There are eye recognition. Where's the eye going? Which information do they most likely look at? These are the ones which needs to be in the center, and so on and so forth. That is part of the analysis, what do we really need to do, and that is the first start of human-centered design. The next one is, you're starting to design, you know more or less what you want to do, but you do not know how to present that, so it is meaningful information. You know more or less the databases, but you have to design how it's done. That is done with mock-ups. That is done with test cases. And in that case, again, you need to put the people in. They need to see what you're designing, what comes from what Margareta was pulling from the iceberg up to the front. We are building the iceberg, and the iceberg is going bigger and bigger and bigger, and we need to see what is on the surface, and we can do that with the end users. That is another section of human-centered design in the design phase of it. Then during the development, you also need to have everybody involved. So those which are designing systems, they cannot just it was more or less 20 years ago, the strategy. You go in, you get the user requirements, you go off, you develop something, you come back and says, here it is. And in 80% of the cases, the response was, no, that is not what we wanted. Oh, you told me to do that, but that is not what we wanted. That is not what is helping us. So that's the iterating process that you have within that circle. When you have in the development, you have first iterations. You get to the user. You get it on the original devices, on the ships, on the aircrafts. Try it out. Do tests with it. These are the test beds we are working on. Is that working like that? And then we have the next step. So even if something is developed, even something is put in, that is not, when it's used, it's not the end of human-centered design. There's the evolution. What are the next steps? What can we do better? How can we move forward? What additional data do you need? We have to convert in information to increase your knowledge because your situation has changed. No, more traffic, larger ships, more condensed areas, more need for optimization of your fleet, and so on and so forth. That is evaluating and evolutionizing the tools we have. And these are two examples of evolutions in the aviation world on heads-up displays. So a couple of additional information on human-centered design aspects which are important. When we look into the data, data are a central part of e-navigation. Those data needs, as I said, needs to be converted into information which is digestible. So what we need to take a look, we do need to have situation-centered data filtering and selection. There's much more data available than what you can digest at a certain situation, in a certain moment. Therefore, we need to filter it in a way that we give the mariner at a certain time those information they actually need. Not those information which we think they need, but what they really need. Guidelines for that needs to be developed within part of the human-centered design. We need the integration of the different data points. We need to integrate the data. We need to make it sure that it's harmonized. Just because it's here and it's here, we need to somehow bring that together so the picture is rounding up. And we need to have information rendering. What I mean with information rendering is once you have combined the information, once you have selected the information, you have to present the information in a way that it is digestible. So you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at data within e-navigation from a human-centered design point of view. One of the aspects which I think is important when we utilize human-centered design in e-navigation is that we find adaptive solutions, which means solutions which can adapt to different situations. Situations are changing. The need for information in the Malacca Straits are different than the need for information in the Inner Barrier Reef route or when you are in the Baltic Sea. The applications we are building need to be adaptive to your situations we are in, and there are a couple of examples on aviation where that is being put in on the right side, on the left side. These are applications for marine. So what that results into, and that's an example out of the aviation world, it's an electronic flight bag where you have in one system different levels of information depending on what you want to research and what you want to know. So you can actually switch the displays and giving you additional information on documents, on airport maps, on terminal charts, on performance, or even cabin surveillance. You get into the cabin and says, what is going on? I hear something in the back, what is going on in that cabin? So depending on what kind of an information need you have on the tasks you're working, you can actually switch the application to provide you with some input on those data. And because you have different preset information schemes, it's a simple switch. You're not Okay, so you are not just trying to zoom in, zoom out, and it's changing. You can easily switch. I want to see a terminal chart. I want to, going to our arena, I'm going to that harbor, show me the chart of the harbor. I want to see the details of the harbor, so I can prepare myself for my voyage. That is something we have to to take in consideration a simple fast switch which increases my information digestments. And then also something what we have to keep in mind, we do not have a one-size-fits-all. So depending on what tasks and obligations you have, one device may not fit for all those purposes. And you may actually have different devices at the same time, so you can easily switch from one device to the others. Same as we have on the bridges right now, different instruments giving you different information at the same time. You look at the radar, you look at the chart display, you look at other displays, if you have sounding on the sounding display. Not everything needs to be merged at the same time. There are certain things what you need to consolidate in your brain, what you need to have available in certain views to build up your mind, what is going on in the situation you are in. And sometimes you need to have different tools for easy access and simultaneous use. Here are two aviation applications. One is navigation-oriented application information. The other is fatigue prevention. You put in your biometric details, sleeping habits, and so on and so forth, and it gives you your biorhythm. It gives you information when is your biorhythm low in the aircraft. That is used to identify when a pilot should go to sleep on a long-haul flight. That is when the biorhythm is low. And you should not put two pilots together which have the same biorhythms, because they may be tired at the same time. They may be sleepy at the same time. So you're trying to mix your crew together, you're trying to analyze that. That is what the tools is all for. That cannot be done on the same tool you're using for your navigational devices. So I hope I gave you some more insights what my view on human-centered design is, and that I think that is center and key of us moving forward to create tools which are actually useful on board of bridges and not sexy and nice on a display and in an exhibition, because ultimately, yes, we may sell as industry, we may sell a little bit more when it looks sexy in an exhibition, but ultimately, if it is not really useful for the mariner on the bridges, it will not sustain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael.